Welcome to this episode of Locked In. This is going to be part 6 of my Perfect Gravel Bike for Roadies series. And I know I mentioned doing a price and weight breakdown in this video, but we're actually going to go out and do a first ride impressions because I actually need to see if I need to order some other parts for it as far as adjusting the fit. So what we're going to be doing is Mario's going to be showing up here pretty quickly, and we're going to go out for just a flat ride out to the beach from where I live. So it's going to be about a 36 mile ride, pretty much flat on the river trail. It's going to be some nice views. The weather's really killer right now, just to get basically a ride out on the Marauder and really test out the saddle position so that I can figure out my fore and aft and what's comfortable for my knees and my sit bones, obviously, with this new Burke saddle that, if you haven't seen, is a ultra weight weenie, 106 grams. And then that's going to determine if I do need to shorten the stem down to 100. I don't think I'm going to need longer than a 110, but I might need to order a 100 mil stem. So I'm going to be taking you on a ride with me. So then after the ride, we're going to be sitting down. I'm going to process kind of how I feel about the bike after putting so many miles on my Cobalt Warhawk, which I believe is almost about 3,000 at this point since I've owned it. And then talking about the differences, at least initially, on road compared to the Marauder. So stay tuned for that and enjoy the beach ride. Now that I've had some time to basically clean up after the ride, so what I want to talk about first is the first few new components that are new to me and describe the feeling for them. So if that's just an upgrade you're going to be doing to your bike, if you're trying to make your bike more road friendly, or you're trying to build this exact bike or something very similar, what's going to really play into that? And then talk about, do I initially feel any real differences? Now, obviously, haven't taken this thing on any real gravel, but I have ridden the Warhawk a lot on road, on gravel, and on a road setup that I did basically over the last year. All of 2020, essentially, my Cobalt Warhawk was my dual-purpose monster gravel and road bike. And there were some things that I discussed in the video, and I'll link to some of those in the description below, about some compromises. So again, with this project, and the whole kind of purpose behind it was trying to make a bike that's more road-friendly, that still can do some gravel, but it's going to be your more mild or hero gravel, and it can still clear a 42C tire on this. For some people, that's plenty of tire. I like to have even bigger than that, but that's just my personal preference and why I wanted to do this build with Cobalt bikes. And if you're interested in picking up any of the Cobalt frames, I do have a discount code linked in the description below as well, so you can save yourself some money if you want to build this bike up. But first, let's get into a few new components that I really do enjoy on this build that added to the more road feel experience. First off, the Richie Butano bars. These are pretty much, to me, feel very similar to a road bar with just a subtle amount of flair. They're a little bit shallower than a traditional road bar might be, and I think it's a great middle ground for someone going into something that they just want a little bit more flair, but they're not ready for a 12, 16, 24, 36 degree bar. So I think this is a great option to just give you a little bit more width on the drops, so you have a little bit more leverage. Now, if I was going to be doing more crazy terrain on this, I'd probably want to go a little bit more flared, but also too, since this is my road bike, this is going to keep you in that more aero position because it's going to keep your elbows tighter to your body. So I think this in a 44 width, which is what I run, is a great compromise since I typically used to run a 42 centimeter bar on my road bike. Now let's get on to the tires. Now the tires are obviously your contact patch with the road, and these are really going to be a big difference on how the bike feels. And I just did a video on gravel tires on road, and do you really notice a difference? And honestly, these Rene Hurst Bonjon Pass 35Cs, did I feel a little bit of a rolling resistance difference between these and the 50C tires? Yes, but I think that's more of the casing on these is the extra light casing, which is super supple, so they felt really soft, and because they are about half the weight of the WTB tires, that makes that initial acceleration feel easier. But as far as once you're getting going, it's, again, like I kind of mentioned in that video, a few watts difference, I'd say, as far as feel goes. But I could see that, again, like I mentioned before, at a 50-plus mile ride, will you feel that? Probably. So just switching out to a slick, lighter weight tire on your gravel bike or all-road bike is really going to improve the road bike experience. I will be getting more into my Burke saddle review later down the line, but I was surprised that basically I want to do a flat ride, so I was basically forcing myself to be in the saddle as long as possible for long stints. And for the numbers' sake, we did about a 35-mile ride. We averaged about 17 miles an hour. It's about 800 or so feet of climbing. We averaged about 140, 150 watts, I believe. I was basically seated the entire time, and I was still comfortable. I did take periodic stops to kind of adjust the fore and aft back and forth a little bit throughout the ride. I think I nailed the position where it's sitting at now, because this saddle's a lot longer than the power saddle that I've been riding for years. So now let's get on to the frame itself. First impressions, it does feel just as stiff as my Cobalt, but still compliant where it needs to be. It feels a little bit more tossable when I did get out of the saddle to kind of, move it back and forth, but I think just the overall weight difference, and since I don't have a heavier suspension stem and seat post, that weight is a lot lower in the bike to make it feel a little bit more light in hand. So that meant it turned in a little bit easier. It didn't take as much effort to kind of get the bike into a corner. And granted, this isn't a canyon ride, and I'm waiting to do something like that with this to really see the road characteristics, because I have taken the Warhawk in its road mode on a long canyon descent and really did feel the wheelbase and head angle difference on that road. So I want to see if the reduction in wheelbase and head angle do translate into better on-road canyon experiences, but you'll have to see that in a later video. So I'm definitely impressed with the overall package that I think I've put together. I think the gearing has been great, but I haven't done, a crazy climb. On the flats, the 42 with the 9 combo, did I get into it? I think maybe once. But it gave me a lot of headroom for, again, a faster descent or a longer descent style ride. As far as tires go, I'm really happy with these as far as initially. And then everything else is kind of tried and true components that I've used before. The Garber cage works flawlessly. The linked style compressionless housing for the brakes and the shifters works great. I did have a little bit of brake rub, so I do have to adjust the rear caliper again, but that's, again, just part of the shaking down of any bike. Handlebars I really liked. The stem, like I mentioned, I may be shortening up depending on how I feel after some more riding. And the rest is Cobalt. The seat post is the same one that comes stock with the Warhawk frame set because it is a setback. This Marauder frame set does come with a 0 offset, which I didn't need because I am kind of long torsoed, so I typically need a setback post on basically every frame I've ever owned. But I really did like the stiffness and ride characteristics again, and I could actually feel the difference between the two bikes, even on a pretty straight flat road, which I was really surprised at because, again, I've ridden so many miles and typically that's not the terrain you're going to notice it. But I'm definitely happy with the build overall, and I will be doing a full review for the frame set, so I know this is definitely light on info, but again, it's a first ride impression. So this is the first time I got to sit on it for a few hours and really enjoy it as a whole. And I'm really liking all the component choice and everything I've done. But again, this is going to go through maybe a few versions or iterations or upgrades along the way. So make sure to turn notifications on so you can see all those. Later down the line, like I said, I have some scribe wheels hopefully on the way relatively soon for it. And who knows what else we're going to be swapping out on this bike later down the line. So hope you guys like this video and are excited as I am for the continuation of this build. I think gravel, especially in 2021, is really going to segment even more than it was. I think with road going up to a 32C now, it's kind of standard. I think all road is now going to be your 32 to 45C. I think 45 to 55 is going to be kind of the new norm for your monster gravel bikes. Then you're going to get a lot more drop bar mountain bikes. And then bike packing is going to, I think, go between those two categories going forward. But let me know what you think in the comments below. I always like hearing your input. And I also want to do a vlog on this channel about what bike would I buy in 2021 if I was going to purchase a brand new bike from a major brand. There's so many options out there that are currently coming out. I kind of want to see what would I spend my money on, but I'd love to hear your bikes that you've bought or why you chose it in the comments below to maybe aid in my decision making for that later video. So I hope you like this. Please make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, as well as you can help support the channel via my Patreon and Spreadshirt. Links are in the description as well, and you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. And lastly, thanks for watching this episode of Locked In.
Let's get locked in today. Like tutorials and quick and fix tips. Let's get locked in.